its technical name. So anyway, let's get into what today's subject. And excuse me for going. What I want to do is start off with some, what I call possibilities. And this is from one of our newsletters. In fact, maybe the last one, 2012. We'll be doing new ones very soon. Thoughts are things. Imagine yourself consciously participating in humanity's evolution. No longer a witness to all that is occurring. Visualize yourself as a fearless bearer of positive, life-affirming change. That I'm not going to be a victim of this anymore. I'm going to imagine yourself having life-giving knowledge, information, and direction. That now I'm not a victim of the environment. I'm sitting there, I can help. I can get involved in this. So it's life-affirming change. It does not matter whether your brain can comprehend the future. All that is required is that your heart be willing to co-create a peaceful world where harmony links us together as one. Remember when we was talking about the future the other day, we were saying we just want you to have the desire to be big, the desire to want to change things, right? The desire to, you don't have to say, I got it, I'm going to do it. You just have to have the desire to want to grow, to want to improve. We can click that boy off now for just a minute there. Okay. Your mind has the tremendous ability to expand beyond its human limitation. Command it to grant you access to the wisdom, knowledge, and technologies of life, and be amazed at the generosity of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Feel yourself in the presence of creativity, exploring wholesome new living environments. Embrace the spiritual freedom to build a world that is in harmony with Allah's will. Now, I'm going to mention this to our relatives. I know this really sounds highfalutin, but you have to remember, and I'm writing this 12 years ago. No, not 12. 8 years ago. 2012, creating a new global harmony. That's what it was. Okay. You got to remember, in the old days, y'all was used to Big Hank right here, this sharp Negro. You was used to Oakland. You were used to seeing, you have to remember what happened in Oakland. Before we go any further, let's go over what happened in Oakland. Oakland was not an experiment. Oakland was a reality. All of our leaders were talking about black nationalism, or Martin Luther King in '68 had moved to Chicago to do, right? This whole, what did he call it? We call ours East Oakland Enterprise. He called his a black economic enterprise zone. You know, they had poor people's money, all that. Now this is economic enterprise zone. Okay, you have to remember, now think back what we did in Oakland. We did different than all the other big Negroes in Oakland. Well, later big Negroes appeared. But we would say in Oakland we were the first, or we was amongst the first. But if you look at people that were so-called big in Oakland, like the Ward brothers, the Ward brothers got money for themselves. They were very famous. They was in time, sort of news. You could see them at what's the name's fight, all sharp. They was, okay, they made a movie and Frank Ward was killed. But the movie, The Mac, was dedicated, just remember the credits, to Frank Ward. Frank Ward was one of the oldest. He was considered the sharpest. And Frank Ward, it's a long story. He got mixed up with them white people, movie makers. And that's a long story. Anyway, so they got money for themselves. They got money for themselves, like anybody else. Now in those days, they get money for themselves or their little crew. Okay, what was the difference between people that came even after? Now y'all remember Felix Mitchell. Felix Mitchell was big, but I showed you pictures of Johnny Gunn, Johnny Bethia. Johnny Bethia was in charge of our security. Johnny Bethia was Felix's uncle. Johnny Bethia, when I left, he didn't have no work or anything to do, so the little guy running around there called Felix Mitchell. Johnny Bethia taught him. Now y'all remember, y'all was there, so ask anybody around. Johnny Bethia taught him about organization. Pretty soon, Felix Mitchell was big. Down there in those projects on 69th, he got so big, he brought Clark Gable's mansion in LA and did a lot of stuff. He was big and he was wealthy. But by the time I finished, he finished, I had a little parole violation for a couple of weeks. I was in the county jail in San Francisco, and he was in the county jail. He was getting sent to Leavenworth. And he was telling me, man, he was telling me the system. He said, they did me wrong, man. They was blowing me up like I was, of course I knew that's what they do. They take all Negroes. When they talk about kingpins, right? See any white kingpins? You see no white kingpins. All Negro kingpins. Do you see any Negro importers of drugs or managers of anything? No. But all the kingpins, the kingpin law is for Negroes. So what they do is they build you up real big, like this is the king of drugs. And they've done that to several brothers, right, around the country. They get rid of them and don't know dope stop. They already got somebody else waiting to take his place. So we was talking, he said, yeah, man, they blew me up like I was, Darrell King was another. Y'all remember Darrell King was in San Francisco? Boy, you would thought when they took him to Folsom, they had a bodyguard of I don't know how many sheriffs and police taking him to the penitentiary. But didn't no dope stop in San Francisco. Right, they blew him up and made him big and gave him a ton of time. He's still in the penitentiary now. That was, good God, that was 30-something years ago. Right? So, I'm going to get back to all the big people. The big people, no matter what city, they all got money for themselves. Then what was different about Oakland when I was there? We used black nationalism techniques. Now, y'all was there, you can remember half of you had jobs, you know, right, okay. And I paid a good wage, you know, just think about it. I didn't pay nobody starvation. Everybody got nice money for what they was doing. Even if you was a teenager working in the record shop, you know, you got I don't know how much money. Okay, you got the same money that they would be making in GM out there in those days. You know, same amount of money, okay. Now, imagine what Oakland looked like in 69, 70, 71, those years. Imagine all the cars. Do you remember any period in Oakland when everybody was getting money? Why? Because we were circulating our money back in the community, right? Instead of the money, the dope dealer got the money, then he took it out of the community. Diamond rings, diamond watches, Mercedes-Benz, Cadillac. He got, the money went out to somebody else. Before we sent the money out, we circulated it. Everybody, you see or try to remember any period in Oakland's history when everybody was doing that well. When I say everybody, I'm talking about especially East Oakland. Now, here's the mistake all the other gangsters made in Oakland with us. East Oakland starts from down at Lake Mary, First Avenue, all the way out to 105th, right? From the estuary down by the airport at Alameda, all the way up to Piedmont and all the way up in the East Oakland Hills. They left that to us, because all the gangsters, remember, was in West Oakland, 7th Street. The Ward brothers lived in East Oakland, but they was pimping it down in the other part of town, because that's where the so-called bad part, they left us all of East Oakland. From Funktown to Sobrante Park, boy, I'm telling you, right? That was technically 70%. They left us 70% of Oakland. So when we came on the scene on the other side of town, they thought we was what? Where y'all come from? Because we came not as individuals. We came as an organization. As an organization, not just individuals. When we came, when we popped up, there we was, and people were shocked. A full-fledged organization with leadership structure, organizational structure, right? Control and distribution mechanisms. They said, man, what is going on here, right? That's the way everybody felt. Now, if the people felt like that, think what the government felt about that. Was that accidental? Absolutely not. I don't have the pictures here, but you could remember. Say around 68, that Black Panther look, Cindy Brands. And 2 years later, this other look. What happened? Well, not 2 years later. The next year is because that look, you're studying all the time. That's the point I want to make about us. We are studying and evolving all the time. Not only in those days, right now. Right? We're studying and evolving right now. Our next writings will take in the last 8 years. You will be mind-boggled. If you think the last several years was very good, just wait till all this stuff is translated, you know what I mean, and organized and what have you, right? And put into writing. It'll sound like this stuff right here. Because that's what the notes all look like. Imagine yourself consciously participating in humanity's evolution, no longer a witness to all that is occurring. Visualize yourself as a fearless bearer of positive life-affirming change. That's where we didn't evolve to. But that was back then. That's why we was different in those days. We did, and Oakland was the right size, we did what everybody else was talking about. We already did that. Everybody's there and they saw it. You know, Everybody's there. When I was in Africa and the Black Panther Party, most of them was half East Coast and all that, so technically they didn't know me. So they, Pete O'Neill was security, took pictures and da. And then he told me, I said, well, what did you hear back from Oakland? He said, they said you're a legend in your own time. In other words, they talk more about us. When you hear about Oakland, they talk about Huey Newton and all that. They didn't do that in those days. They talked about us because we had more influence on the city. Unbelievable it is, it's like right now. You don't see us in programs talking and speaking all over. But we have a bigger influence on this whole movement than all them people with all of those. They have, when the coronavirus is not in, they have Masjid people hanging out of the window. They don't have no place to pray, and they have satellites. Adams Center, whatever it is, it has 28 satellites. 28, well it had 10, then somebody told me they had 28 now. Satellites, probably each satellite is like this. They on the road. They're on the road. But all the boys, when something come up, one Latino run all the boys off and they kill the girl right out there, right? Remember last Ramadan before last? Just run off. What kind of teaching is that? The Quran tells us the men are the protectors and maintainers of women, so the boys ought to know. My grandson, several years ago, went over to, I took him over to Dar al-Hijra. So he was 15 at that time, and he was hanging out with the, they wasn't listening to the pro, they was out running around the streets and everything. So the kids there said, there go our bikes. So there go your bikes? What do you mean? He said, they told him, those are our bicycles that these guys are riding. Those Latino brothers. We pro-Latino, but they should watch themselves on the bike. So anyway, he took the bikes back by himself and gave them their bikes back. You know what the head of security over there, the one that carried the pistol? Your grandson is very brave. I said, he ain't brave, he's just normal. You can't nobody come take your bike, right? You can't, but they take that. What kind of America? What are they teaching our kids? Right? So you can imagine we trying to ease up on them and tell them this type of truth. We got to ease up on them. We can't just kick the door down. We want you to build, you want to be in America, well, you help build it the way you want. We'll scare them to death. So we got to ease up on them and ho hum. We got to ease up on them like the old Negro used to ease up on white folks. Oh, boss man, Lord have mercy. You was a good white man. And he wouldn't say you were a good white man, but that was what the white man would get. And you so kind, I'd like to use your truck and stuff like that tomorrow. And by the way, my mules is tired, and so that's what they used to do. So your tractor, that John Deere there, they had 4 tractors, right? Because I remember we had mules down in the country, but at certain times we'd be using Mr. Words, truck, pickup truck, and tractors. I used to drive on a tractor on the side. I was 6, my brother was 19. He'd be driving a tractor. Of course, that's the reason I like the South, because I left before I did any work. Everybody else was glad, boy, I like it because it was green. We go fishing, you know what I mean, in the bayou right there. Oh, I liked it. Nobody else, everybody that was had to work. I tell my father how nice. Listen, go back to Arkansas. Oh, it's nice because he had to work. But anyway, that's the way we have to deal with our immigrant people, right? Tell the truth. They won't invite us nowhere. We got to ease up on them, pat them on the back. Oh, the goal is to help humanity evolve. Our goal is not to become famous or they like us. Our goal is this job, this society. And think now, they haven't picked this up with what's going on now. Who needs to be informed about how crazy things are today? They do. They still, remember we went over there to that program? You remember the UCMO something or other?
Oh,
Yeah, they still want to vote and stuff.
Yeah.
that was then, they still want to vote now.
They still want to vote now.
4 years later, they still want to vote.
And it's clear, like,
Yeah.
I don't know how nobody can see that all this is a big play. It's a big movie. The Democratic team, Republican team, and they don't want to fight this is a declared winner right here. No, they want to keep it close. No matter how stupid Don acts, they keep saying, the news Don got a chance. Don, if he just say this and that, that's not true. I picked up on that. 2000, might have been 2004. I was in California. And I knew George Bush didn't have no chance of winning. But Abdul Malik was saying, yeah, he was saying something different. He said, white folks ain't gonna let so-and-so carry, whatever it was. I said, oh yeah? So I didn't say nothing in the end. Because I know for him to say that, the police had to tell him that. And he had the ends on exactly, and he didn't win. I was thinking the way things look, it's impossible. He done drug everybody over there in the war, and man, the people is mad, right? He can't win that. But this system is totally controlled. Everybody is handpicked. You know, it's not just hand-picked Negroes, it's hand-picked white folks. And it's a few people that are not hand-picked, but they go along with the program. Or they take